Hey KU fans, welcome back to KU Sports Extra. Yet another episode. Tom, we're still going. I know we made a big deal out of that last week, but to be honest, a couple guys like us just making it through 1 week, huge news.
It's big news, and so far the ratings have been shockingly good.
Yeah. Stick with us. They'll get better. Let's jump into the good news this week, and really this is something that could be good news or bad news, I think. It's senior day for the KU football program. The reason it could be bad news is there's a ton of guys that are leaving this program, will be playing their last home game at Memorial Stadium, and that's disappointing. A lot of good players, good people even more. The reason it's good news, though, is that this class, they haven't won a lot of games. They've been laughed at a lot. They've been disrespected a lot. But on senior day against TCU, Saturday, just before 2 o'clock, these guys are going to be the center of attention, and they're going to be honored and appreciated the way they're supposed to be.
You know, you could laugh at the class if you want because so many are gone.
Right.
Didn't cut it. You can't laugh at the guys remaining.
Not at all.
Turner Gill set out to have a fast class, and he got it. The guys remaining are fast.
Great point.
They're fast in the classroom. They're fast on the football field.
Yeah, it's a great group. I mean, you know the names. Jermaine Mundine, Tony Pearson, Ben Heaney, Michael Reynolds, Victor Simmons. The list goes on and on. I think it's 20 or 21 guys that will be honored. Not all of the seniors are electing to go through the senior day ceremony. Some of them don't have family and don't want to just be standing out there by themselves. So not all of them will be out there on the field before the game, but those guys, the core guys that you know the names, they'll be out there. If you make it to the game, or even if you don't, just find a way to give them some love. They deserve it, and hopefully they go out with at least a good note. Maybe they won't win the game, but feeling good about their time at Kansas and that they were appreciated. Bad news?
The bad news is that the game is against TCU, and TCU is a defensive juggernaut every year under Gary Patterson because he's one of the best defensive coaches in college football. But the bad news is that as good as the defense is, a typical TCU defense, the offense is even better.
Yeah.
Under first-year co-offensive coordinator, he's the offensive coordinator. Sonny Cumbie is the assistant. Doug Meacham, the new offensive coordinator, has taken TCU's offense under Boykin, the same quarterback, from 88th in the country to 2nd. So they're a double-headed monster, and they could win it all this year.
Yeah, they're right there, too. Elevated into that 4th spot in the college football playoff. Pretty cool. But let's shift gears now for Lost in Translation from football to basketball, which will kick off Friday night. And let's hear from Brandon Green.
Translation, I have a little bit of a guilty conscience about not playing quite well enough in practice. And if I continue that, that's going to hurt my playing time in games because I'm playing for a coach who believes that you play how you practice. So the way to earn playing time is to practice a little harder. So I'm going to bring a popcorn machine to practice and have it popping to fool myself into thinking it's a game.
Maybe a little immaturity there, maybe still not quite getting it, but the fact that he's kind of scheming there shows maybe he's trending that way, toward getting it, right?
Yeah, and that's better than not getting it.
At all, right,
Yeah.
and just the blank face, that. Can you show us the blank face? There it is. That's the one. Yeah, Brandon Green doesn't have that right now. Even after the concussion, he didn't have that.
No.
Let's break down and go to Breakdown Street and talk about this matchup with TCU real quick a little more. You already mentioned Trayvon Boykin. Big-time quarterback. I mean, the guy's absolutely dynamic with his feet. He can throw the ball. He's got weapons all over the place. But one of the most important things that I think will happen in this game is the weather, believe it or not. It's supposed to be bitterly cold. There's a chance for snow. And I think as much as what offensive sets they run, as much as what defenses they play, I think the weather could be a factor in this game. These guys from Texas aren't practicing in it. They don't want to play in it. And these KU guys have been all week. I don't think it means KU is going to win the game, but I do think it could be a little more interesting than the 28-point spread and a little more interesting than people think.
Well, this is not the Texas Longhorns, though.
Right.
Yes, I know most of their team is from Texas, which has much better weather than they're anticipating Saturday, But these aren't the Longhorns who are traveling with heated benches, and we're kind of soft.
Yeah.
This is a tough
That's a good
team.
point. And their head coach is from Kansas.
Yes.
So knowing him, he probably brought in snow for this week's practices just in case.
Well, he could be a cold guy with those guys during practice.
There you go.
So
there you go.
surprise me.
Hey, were you surprised Iowa State brought heated benches last week?
I was surprised
That was weird.
at that.
Kind of deserve to lose when you do that.
Yeah, you do, and I bet
55 degrees or something.
If Mark Mangina were the head coach instead of the offensive coordinator, I don't think he would have brought heated
No
benches.
chance.
Maybe
55
one for
degrees?
himself, but
Yeah.
55 degrees, unbelievable.
Yeah, that's not good. But all right, well, let's get to prediction time. There is a basketball game on Friday night, regular season opener against UC Santa Barbara, and then the TCU KU football game on Saturday. So how about a prediction for both? I'll let you choose whatever one you want to start with.
All right, I'm going to say Kansas is going to win by 8 against UC Santa Barbara. That might surprise some people, but Williams is an outstanding center.
Right.
I believe his father's a sheriff and his mother's a teacher, and he is a load. He's an NBA prospect who averaged 21 and 12 last year and was the Big West Conference Player of the Year. Back this year, this is a tough team they're playing.
Right.
And this isn't coach speak because I'm not a coach.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people think. And Coach Self talked about the zone defense that they'll see.
Yeah.
That could frustrate KU a little more than they're ready for.
Maybe, but I think Perry Ellis in the middle of the zone with the ball
Yeah.
is pretty darn good
No,
as
he
a
is.
college player. I'm going to go with Cliff Alexander as the primetime pick.
Okay, I'm going to give you my pick first, though.
Okay.
I'm picking KU. 74-63, sort of along the same lines that you've
Okay.
got. You pick Cliff. Why?
Why? Because I think Perry Ellis will set him up with some passes, and I think the bright lights really bring out the best in Cliff Alexander.
Easy buckets. He got some of those the other night. Good pick.
And I think that's why his father wears sunglasses, because the bright lights,
Yeah.
you know.
And if you guys are at the game, check out Clifton Alexander. The guy's a machine. He sits in the aisle behind the visitors' bench, maybe 15 rows up or something, and he is something to watch. He's so into it, you think he's out there playing.
Yeah, and he was a good player
Yeah.
himself. In fact, if you're kind of hoping that Cliff Alexander stays at KU again and doesn't declare, a little family history might skew against that guess because his father, Clifton, declared out of junior college. So if you're going to declare out of junior college, there's a good chance that if he's going to use similar data as his father, he'll probably declare out of Kansas. You have a better shot declaring out of Kansas.
It was a weak draft, though, when Clifton did it. I mean, he had a shot. He had a shot. I understand it.
Good point.
I'm going to go with Wayne Selden for my primetime pick in the basketball game. I think he's been talked about so long as the leader of this team, the guy that steps up. And if they do play a lot of zone, I could see Wayne getting hot, knocking down some outside shots, and he's going to play 30-plus minutes in this one. And I just think the fact that switch is flipped from exhibition and practice to game time when it counts for real. This is why he came back. He could have left last year. He came back. He doesn't want to lose. He doesn't want it to be close. I think Wayne Selden is my primetime pick. Let's get back to football. Pick your score for KU TCU.
I went with the KU losing 38-10, which initially would mean that they would lose against the spread, which we don't care about the spread. I just think it's a good indicator, though.
Of competitiveness.
Yeah.
I agree.
And it's up to 28, you said?
It was the other day, and could come back down if people factor in the weather. Just saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with
you.
you.
Taking an upset here or no?
No, I'm not. I got 38-14 TCU, which on paper, I think if that's the final score, people would look at that and go, KU hung in there. And really, it's a 24-point loss, and it's not good, and it won't be good enough for Clint Bowen. But I think that would, people would be okay with that. It would be better than seeing 60-something to 10 or whatever.
Right.
So
I think that Baylor was a tougher matchup for KU.
Yeah.
Certainly TCU is a very difficult matchup, but I think Baylor, just because of Baylor's speed at the wide receiver position.
It was there, too.
The line is unbelievable for Baylor.
This
But
is
it's good for
home,
TCU
senior
too.
day. Those things factor in. They really do. And KU's played this TCU team pretty well the last couple of years, even when they were prohibitive underdogs in those, too. So we'll see. They got their work cut out for them for sure. Who's your primetime pick for the football game?
My primetime pick for the football game, I want you to take yours first because I'm afraid you're going to copy mine.
Well, you've gone with Tony Pearson like 4 times, so I'm not going to go Tony just in case. I'm going to go Ben Heaney. Are you kidding me? Senior day for Captain Heaney. Look, he had 21 tackles at Texas Tech. He's going to have like 53 in this game. And I'm going to count a few in warm-ups and stuff because he's going to be bringing guys down, even on his own team, even before the game starts. So Ben Heaney, big game, Final game at Memorial Stadium. Hope he gets a standing ovation from everybody there.
I hope so too, and I imagine most people, viewers of KU Sports Extra, already figured this out, but I'm going to let you behind the curtain. The reason I wanted Matt to go first is because I had told Matt who was going to be my primetime pick about 5 minutes before we came on the air, and then I forgot it, and now I remember it. Nigel King.
There you go.
Been
that was
so
it.
impressive.
That's a true story.
As a wide receiver, just out muscling guys for catches. I like this guy more and more every week, and I think he can face any kind of competition and do well.
Eric Keesaw, the new offensive coordinator, the new play caller, the co-offensive coordinator. We'll go back to that. The co.
Offensive coordinator.
Yeah, thank you. He told a cool story about Nigel King's big catch last week, the 42-yard catch on 3rd and 19. He said they had ran a similar play earlier in the game 2 or 3 times looking for a shorter pass off of it, but the same route for King. And it wasn't there, and it wasn't there, and it wasn't there. Well, then it goes to 3rd and 19, and they got to have a play, and he flat out admitted, as a play caller, you don't have a lot of plays for 3rd and 19.
Especially with the line that's...
Right. So he looks over to the bench, and Nigel King says, "Coach, call it." And Keesaw looks at his sheet and says, "I got nothing better. Sure. Okay, run it, guys." Michael Cummings holds up. The line holds up. Michael Cummings makes a great throw, and Nigel King rips the ball out of the air, 42-yard
awesome
gain,
play.
sets up a 1-yard touchdown for Michael Cummings. Game over. I mean,
an awesome play.
And you know what? A lot of coaches would have issue with, I didn't call that play, or not being able to admit that. Keesaw said, this is what we want in our offense. We want our guys to know it, to have it click, and to have them tell us what they like and what they want, because if that line of communication is open like that, they're having fun.
Plus, an athlete knows what's working for him at that moment.
Exactly. Yeah, and if you're playing fun and you're playing loose, you're going to make more plays.
Yeah, and that was a great illustration. And I like the fact that Keesaw came out, just like you said, and he admitted that.
Very, very cool story. So, Ben Heaney, Nigel King, 2 good picks, 2 good players. Let's finish it off, Tom. Most obnoxious man in sports this week. Who do you got?
Well, Alex Rodriguez is the more you learn about the steroid stuff. And A-Rod told the DEA that his cousin had paid, that he paid his cousin $700,000 to stay silent about his steroid use. The cousin, the alleged drug mule for him. And while he was, according to his cousin's wife, while A-Rod was there to deliver the check, A-Rod relieved himself on the wall of the house outdoors. Now, was this to send a threatening message, or was he just that arrogant that he thought he could pee on their house instead of going inside and using their facilities? Now, this is, according to her, and if it's true, that makes A-Rod the most obnoxious man in sports.
Yeah, I mean, at least grab a towel and do the Bill Walker thing, right?
Right.
I mean, have the
class.
Courtesy. Yeah, it's all about class. Grab a towel from the back seat, do that. I mean, that's embarrassing.
So how many thousands didn't see
Bill
Walker doing what this cousin's wife claims to have seen A-Rod do?
A-Rod. I'm sure everybody listening, watching, is shocked to hear that about A-Rod. Such a good guy. Jeez, obnoxious. I agree with you. Mine is from the National Basketball Association, and it really is a group of people, because evidently some people had some issue with a pregame, postgame, I'm not sure which one it was, but a handshake between Cleveland Cavaliers players Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. Look, these guys are excited to be playing together. They're having fun, and apparently they did some handshake, and then at the end did what they call is twisting their mustache. Whatever. I'm not saying it's cool. I'm just saying that's what they say it was. Well, some people took issue and thought it was a sign that they were smoking marijuana. And Kyrie Irving says, come on, man. This is a cool handshake. It's something we came up with. Yeah. We're not doing anything illegal. We wouldn't do that. It's our mustache twist, and we're sticking to that, and we're going to keep doing it. So obnoxious for people to be annoyed by that, and good for those guys for saying, nothing's wrong with it. We're going to keep doing it, and a little twist for you. So
let's face it. If I could grow facial hair, I'd have a mustache myself, and I'd probably twist it.
All day, probably.
Yeah,
just to keep that focus for you.
Right, and I would have had it since the 70s, and I would have looked like a lot of famous actors.
Tom Selleck.
Others.
All right, we'll leave it on that note. The Tom Selleck stash is always a good place to end. Big time atmosphere for KU Sports, though, this week. Basketball Friday night against UC Santa Barbara at the Fieldhouse. Football just a few hours later on Saturday. We'll be there for both.
Yes, we will. And as long as you mentioned Tom Selleck, I once worked on a movie that Tom Selleck was in. I was at the National Sports Daily. It folded. My brother's relative, in-law, got me a job as a mechanical engineer or something.
Sounds right.
Yeah, which I don't know how to change the title.
Right up your alley.
Yeah. So Tom Selleck was on the set, and he stopped and talked and said, yeah, this is so zany, this movie, blah, blah, this happens to me, that happens to me. And he seemed like a nice guy, just nodded, and I thought, oh, yeah. And I thought, what a horrible movie this must be. I'm sure it was. But the director or whatever that'd be, I guess he was like a kind of a director or assistant something or other.
Co-producer.
Yeah, something. Comes up to me and tells me there was like a hull of an airplane, maybe from the pilot to back, and says, okay, I need you to remove all the bucket seats in this, lay down wall-to-wall carpeting, and then bolt the buckets back in. And to that point, I had just been carrying stuff, and I kind of panicked, but I didn't panic because I thought real quick. And I just looked at him and I said, I'm better at just carrying stuff.
How'd that work out?
He just went, never mind. And he didn't ask me to do anything ever again.
And here you are today on KU Sports Extra.
Yeah, and I was a set decorator, assistant set decorator for that, but I didn't make...
That's good.
Set dresser, maybe. I did not make the credits.
Wow,
so
that's a shame.
Therefore, I didn't watch the film.
Yeah, good. Well, we'll look that up someday. Maybe Benton Smith, the whiz-bang behind the camera, can find that out.
Or Bobby Nightingale.
Special thanks to Bobby Nightingale for filming this tonight. All the angles and close-ups and things you've seen tonight, Bobby Nightingale, young whiz-bang. Thanks for checking out KU Sports Extra. We'll see you next week. And be sure to log on to KUsports.com throughout the rest of the week and the weekend for all our coverage of all kinds of KU stuff.